We're going to talk about if Triumph will ever make a TF350X.
Everybody spoke very highly of a gentleman named Dudley that pretty much ran their engine department at the Red Bull KTM Factory Services. And he's one of the main guys over at Triumph right now. I also was told that he had a pretty big role in the 350 development as well.
The success that we have seen in Europe with Tony Cairoli aboard the 350 SXF.
Well, it's already very similar to KTM. So this would really be your KTM with KYB suspension, but now with an aluminum frame.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Shop Talk. This is episode 2 at Ride JBI. I am Anthony. This is JB, of course. Now, in last week's episode, episode 1, we touched on Chase Sexton riding a KYB fork aboard his KTM 450 SXF. We're going to recap that video. Later on in this video, we're going to talk about if Triumph will ever make a Triumph TF350X. Now, they just came out with a TF250X. That is a 250 motocross model that Jalek Swoll and Evan Ferry have been competing in this Monster Energy Supercross series. We will get into that a little bit later in this video. But first off, let's tackle Chase Sexton and how he looked.
Yeah, dude, he looked good, and especially in some tricky conditions as well. I was glad to see how much they could save the track from qualifying. Qualifying looked a little bit muddier and just slippier, I guess, good way to put it. The night show looked still muddy, but maybe not as slippery. So the riders could still be somewhat aggressive, but not too much. And Chase looked oddly comfortable, but still fastly smooth out there. Like aggressive, but in a smooth way. Other riders, not so much. I was surprised to see him not get the win, but hats off to Cooper Webb. That dude was just a bulldog. He did not let down one bit.
Those two were neck and neck pretty much, not the entire race, but especially towards the latter stages of the race. They were going at it, just trading mistakes, and it really came down to who made the least amount of mistakes. Now, we saw Chase make a couple throughout the night. He stalled it in the heat race, which I thought was a bit weird, and then he stalled it again, which is even a little bit more peculiar in the main event, exiting that turn before the mechanics area. So is that a thing of maybe, well, the ruts were so deep, the track was so gnarly? Was it just a case of him leaning the bike over and the shifter just getting caught on a rut, shifting up once and, you know, just a little too high of a gear exiting that turn? Who knows? But nonetheless, it was a great performance for Chase. I was surprised to see him not jump over that wall jump out of the sand section. I thought that would have been right up his alley. He elected to take the inside line all main event, while his competitor Cooper Webb, an eventual race winner, went outside and was hopping the wall at different points throughout the main event. So I was a little surprised to see that, just because that's typically not Coop's forte. He's not the dude to do the massive lines, the big lines, the quads, stuff like that. So hats off to Coop. He rode amazing all night long and looked really comfortable aboard his YZ450F. And as far as for Chase, he's still on those KYB forks, and he looked dang comfortable all day long throughout arguably the gnarliest track all season long, I'd say.
Yeah, because I think what made it gnarly was they still had the ability to put together some pretty tricky lines when they got traction. And I think that's what made it probably most technical. Other times it gets so muddy that it's just a pretty limiting factor on what everybody can do. This race, we saw sometimes they would triple through the section. Other times it'd be a triple, double, because they'd have to check up or lose momentum. And rarely do you see that during a dry race. Usually they nail the rhythms almost every single lap. So it was fun to watch, because, man, you could tell when they got a section dialed, and other times you could tell when they just were a hair off and how much it really slowed them down versus somebody just nailing it.
100%. Yeah, it was all about just putting laps together and making it to the finish in one piece, really.
Yeah, I'm excited to see where they go with this and how long that stays on his bike for.
Yeah. We touched on that in episode 1. So if you haven't watched that already, go watch that after this video. We talk about Chase Sexton riding the KYBs on his 450 SXF, but we're going to dive into, will Triumph ever make a TF350X?
Oh, man, I hope so.
Yeah.
That's the main reason for this video, to be honest. We both want one.
For selfish reasons.
And we hope we can convince you guys to want one, and we'll push Triumph's hand. We have no idea if this is in the works or if it's even an idea of theirs. We did a little bit of research, and we'd like to share with you with what we have. We broke it down in a couple categories, and first one is reasons why they should. First one I have is to gain market share against one competitor against 5. Right now, it's on the 250F. They're going against 5 other brands for that consumer to possibly buy from. They go to a 350, they're only competing against the KTM group. Yes, they make 3 different bikes, but it's relatively the same motorcycle, different plastics, and some minor nuances between them. So that's my one reason why. What do you think?
One quick thing that I want to mention that we talked about before this video is the success that we have seen in Europe with Tony Cairoli
For
aboard the
sure.
350 SXF. I mean, I don't know how many world titles he won on the 350 SXF off the top of my head, but he won a lot of races and a lot of championships on
Hmm.
that bike. Tony Cairoli aboard a 350 SXF back in the day, that was a sight to see.
That was. Yeah. Yeah, that really shows KTM proved the market for it. They showed it can be competitive on that professional level. And then that doesn't even scratch the surface of how successful the 350 has been in the off road racing category and the world of vet racing as well.
Hmm.
I think if Triumph is to only get sales from that, that should be more than enough to make them want to do it. Just
Yeah.
because, dude, the vet demand is huge. You got people that are happy to buy bikes. They got the money to buy bikes. They want a good bike. And off road guys, they want good power, but not too much, something that can handle well. And obviously, we see Two Strokes making a big comeback in that as well, and rightfully so. But
Hmm.
also, the 350 filling a lot of gaps to where the 250F isn't enough power, and the 450 they just don't want to manhandle that for a whole race. So the 350 is definitely another good fit there. Another reason I had it'd be easier and probably more cost effective for them to make a 350, as you alluded to, just sharing common parts, than trying to develop a two-stroke line. Not saying they shouldn't develop a two-stroke line, but in terms of them getting more market space and offering more models, I think it'd be easier to just offer a 350 with their hopefully soon planned 450.
Right. And, we see with the KTM group between the Husky, Gas, KTM, that 250 SXF and the 350 SXF, they share a lot of parts,
They do.
especially in the bottom end. From the top end up, yes, it's different. You have a different piston, you do have a different cylinder head. And as you alluded to, I don't think it'd be as expensive and maybe as time costly for Triumph to go out and say, hey, let's throw on a big bore on our TF250X and see
Hmm.
how it does, durability test it, and then maybe beef up some parts like the cam chain, the crank if they need to, some stuff like that to make it a
Yeah,
worthy 350 competitor for the MC350F or the FC350. Well, my biggest reason why they should is the fun factor. I mean, the 350cc size is right smack dab in the middle pretty much, especially now.
hmm,
The 250, maybe not enough at times. The 450, it's a lot to handle. It's a lot of bike. It's very fatiguing to ride. That 350 gives you pretty much the best of both worlds. You still have that cornering ability, that light playfulness of a 250F, but you get more low end grunt, more pulling power out of the turns. So I
hmm.
think the 350 fun factor of things is off the charts. We've both owned 350s, and we can easily say they're arguably the most fun bike that we have ever owned.
Definitely very fun bikes, and KTM's done a good job proving that market. When they first came out in 2011, it definitely seemed kind of well received, but that first 350 they came out with wasn't very, let's say, high performing as it could have been and as it is now. So I think the reception of it was pretty lukewarm, but as they improved over the years, it got better and better. So at least with Triumph, they don't have to create a whole new market. It's already there. Another thing that's, I don't know them personally, but from just where Ride JBI is located, if you look at us on the map, KTM Racing headquarters used to be in our cul-de-sac, but they recently built their new building about a year ago and moved just about 100 yards up the road. While they were here, a lot of KTM personnel were always walking around, and I got to meet a lot of them. Everybody spoke very highly of a gentleman named Dudley that pretty much ran their engine department at the Red Bull KTM Factory Services. And he's one of the main guys over at Triumph right now. With all the glowing reviews I've heard from people talking about him, not only as a person, but his ability as an engine developer, I also was told that he had a pretty big role in the 350 development as well. Instead of having him develop just two motors for them, why not have him develop three
Mhm.
or maybe even more? I think it'd be in their best interest to really utilize the talent that they have there.
And if there's a guy that knows the 350cc motocross engine, it's him,
Mhm.
right?
Right?
He was the head of the factory services department over there at KTM. He knows that way around that motor, and they have to use his expertise, right? Kind of as
Hmm.
you alluded to. When you have somebody of that talent and that has the knowledge of what's really inside the 350 SXF, why not use that? Use that to your advantage and see what you can come up with.
Lastly, I think the reason why they should is what a branding opportunity of Triumph's big T logo they have for Triumph 350. Sounds dumb, but I think just killer branding opportunity. It's already there. Triumph 350. They could do something really cool with the branding
Yeah.
on that. So that's the reasons why we think Triumph should. Reasons why people maybe would buy that is, well, it's already very similar to KTM. We know we like KTM's with KYB suspension on it. So this would really be your KTM with KYB suspension, but now with an aluminum frame. And as you pointed out, it's the same style aluminum frame. It's not what the Japanese bikes have, which we call, I think, a semi-cradle. It is
Center backbone.
center backbone
Yep.
for the aluminum ones, or at least for the Triumph and the KTM steel frame.
Yeah.
So what a cool way to get a very similar KTM bike, but comes stock with KYBs, and it comes with aluminum frame already.
Yeah, and what's really cool about the Triumph is we just learned this not too long ago. It's hand welded, all in house. I mean, the welds on the TF 250X are beautiful. You look at some of the welds on the other bikes. I hate to talk badly or poorly. I'm not going to point anyone out in specific, but some of them just don't look as crisp and as clean when you compare it side by side to a TF 250X photo. KYB suspension, Brembo brakes. It also comes with a Pro Taper ACF handlebar, which is really nice.
Yeah.
So you're getting a lot of goodies for what you're buying. Especially, it's not that high on the price point. It's a fairly competitive price point as well. Just comes under $10,000, so still a fairly reasonable price bike, especially for what you're getting.
Yeah, good point. Because to build your KTM the same, it's buy KTM, buy KYB suspension, and obviously you can't just get a different frame for it, but you're in it quite a bit more if you want that style of a bike out of a KTM. So this kind of just gives you that KTM you're hoping to build right out of the box. From seeing just Triumph's past history of all the different models that they've made, it seems like it kind of fit in quite well with their current branding that they got going on. And were you mentioning they already have their versions of factory editions for their street bikes that they offer?
Yeah, they have some special editions. If you're on the Triumph Motorcycles website and you go on the bar on the left-hand side, it'll show you everything they got. Everything from the adventure side, the street side, the motocross side, of course. And then there's a tab just for special editions. So,
really?
I mean, this is a little bit different of a topic than what we're trying to tackle today, but do we see them come out with a factory edition? Because they do have their own parts catalog there with full Akrapovic exhaust system for the TF250X already. And in fact, if you go online to their website and hit the online configurator, you can see what that exhaust looks like on the bike, which I think is really cool because no other manufacturer has done that.
Really?
Like, yeah, it's pretty cool.
Dang,
Yeah, it's something little, it's something small, but to keep a potential customer engaged like that, I think is really cool. Not only from a brand perspective, but it goes to show how serious Triumph is in the motocross market. They're here to play ball. They're not here to mess around and pick flowers all day. They're here to win, and they're here to take some market share from the rest of their competitors.
And they seem to be off to a pretty dang good start in terms of just how competitive they are on the pro level with their Supercross team. I think Jalek Swool may have had some engine trouble or bike trouble last race or 2 races ago, and that's going to happen to anybody. If they only have 1 or 2 troubles this whole Supercross season, that's pretty dang good for a literally brand new bike.
Yeah.
In terms of saying, hey man, we just did a whole professional series and we had very minimal mechanical failures, unless there was any outside influences making that happen, such as hit another rider while racing or climate. Before, but strictly failing because the rider was just riding and there was no other outside beyond normal stresses, it doesn't look like that's quite happened yet for him.
Yeah, and Jalek Swool, I would argue that he's riding better than he ever has. And in Birmingham, he was putting together a solid result. He was running 3rd, I believe, for a majority of the race, and then I believe he had to tip over or he got taken out, something to that effect, where he didn't finish on the box. But I'd argue Jalek has been looking better than ever for that TF250X. So props to the Triumph guys. They've definitely done their homework and they've came to play. And to strengthen your point, Camden McClellan at round 1 of the MXGP series, he podiumed, which is the first ever podium for that brand in history, of course. So hats off to those guys. They've been putting in the work. We hope to see a 450 program soon. Who's going to be aboard the TF450X? We don't know. I guess we'll see. Maybe in a couple of months we'll start hearing some rumblings here and there.
Any idea on the release date for that?
I have no idea. I think it's all under the hood at this point. Kind of hoping to see something maybe around outdoors. I think that'd be a good time to unveil something. That's typically around where we're going to see other OEMs start to trickle out their bikes, start to show off their bikes. Obviously, they get delivered at dealerships at a later date, which is normally like September, October, depending on the initial press release date of the bike. But I'm hoping to see something around outdoors. I think that'd be pretty cool. Get the fans engaged and excited for the outdoor season.
Yeah, you're right, man. And I think we got a few riders up for contract at the end of Supercross season that will be looking for rides. Both 250 riders may be pumping up, and some 450 guys that are looking for a new ride or maybe nearing the end of their career and just, looking to go where they can still be helpful. Maybe they're not the top guy there, but they're great test riders. They're good teammates to have, and just they're good on that teammate environment.
Yeah.
That's not always true for every rider or just mechanic out there for us. It's very important in the sense of a team climate as well. So Triumph seems to have done a really good job on that from the get-go with the people they've hired, now with the riders they got going for them, and I think that's a talent within itself, finding the right people, and then not only finding them, but then getting them to come and work with you.
Right.
That, alone is another step on itself. So what a good start they're off to, man. It's really cool to see because, again, I was very skeptical when it was even announced Triumph was making a bike. I was very skeptical. It just seemed like, dude, they have a lot of competition, and they were going to have to do something really good or else this is going to be a flash in the pan.
Yeah.
They're going to make a bike, it's not going to have any demand, and then they'll just be gone and we'll forget about it.
Yeah.
But it seems like they're carving out their market and their place pretty quickly.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. One thing that does scare me with them not making that bike, electric has got to be something that Triumph has thought about. I'm sure they have some technology being pushed towards that way. I think whether we all like it or not, sooner or later, electric is going to be the future of our sport. Stark Future came out with their bike. It's been unveiled now for a little while. We don't know if the other OEMs that have been well established in the sport, such as Kawasaki, Yamaha, Honda, dare I say Suzuki as a joke, but
Right.
but anyways, of those big brands that I just listed, do they have something under the hood? Or are they just waiting to, is it a game of chicken? Are they, just waiting for somebody else to flinch before they unveil theirs?
Yeah, and where Triumph is based, being in the UK, I'm not very knowledgeable in their emissions laws, but it seems like they are pretty restrictive as California is out here. And a lot of times, California restrictions, I know this isn't the best, but due to the amount of bikes California sells, a lot of manufacturers just build bikes to California spec and they sell them everywhere else. So if California keeps making a push and UK keeps making a push on more restrictive emissions laws, that may push Triumph's hand even quicker. But I mean, they must know something, man. For them to invest all this time and effort, I would think they have at least a 10-year horizon of these combustion bikes being competitive and most importantly relevant. Best way to put it. But we've seen Honda has an e-bike ready to go. Well,
Yeah.
they have one that at least can be raced and won on by somebody like Trey Canard. Is it fully there yet? Who knows? And how long will they hold on to this? Who knows? But you got to think if Honda's that far, some other companies have done it as well. Last point on that is Honda was the first one to drop their two strokes. 06, I think they dropped the CR125. 07 was when they dropped the CR250. They're the first one to say this isn't as good for the environment. They've played that card. I'm not saying that's right or wrong. You guys can debate that. But they're the first one to play that card and go strictly 4 strokes. I wouldn't be surprised if Honda was also the first one to do that as well. And in that case, I think that would really push the other OEMs' hand as well in terms of having to play along. Back on the Triumph thing, we hope they make a 350 because it seems like we already know we love the KTM 350, especially with some KYB or just any good suspension on it, man.
Yeah.
Not stock. So to think we could get essentially a KTM with KYB and aluminum frame, what a cool bike that's got to be to ride.
Yeah. We're, like we mentioned earlier, we're a bit daydreaming about this, maybe a bit out to lunch. But it's fun to talk about and it's fun to just speculate, go back and forth, get other people's opinions and thoughts on this. So if you do have a thought on this, please leave a comment down below. We'd love to hear your opinion on it.
There's no expectations of them to do this. It's just easy for them to do it. I think it'd be very well received.
Yeah. Neither of us are fortune tellers, but we both think, and talking to other people that we know, we all think that this will be a grand slam for any brand that does this. So we really hope Triumph does it. We love Brembo brakes. We love KYB suspension. And we just think a center backbone 350 aluminum style frame.
That's got to be cool.
Sick.
That's got to be fun.
Yeah, it'll be badass. So we're just going to wrap this one up. We really appreciate you guys watching and support on our episode 1, where we talked about Chase Sexton riding some KYB forks. Episode 2, we talked about Triumph making a 350. We'll be doing these weekly, so a new show will be popping up each week. So stay tuned. We're going to be signing off for tonight, guys. So thank you guys for watching. We really appreciate it again, and we will see you in next week's episode.